Welcome to the Betting Pros PGA podcast. I'm Pat Fitzmaurice, joined by Mr. Bo McBrayer. We had our first Monday finish of the PGA Tour season at the Players Championship. Rory McIlroy beat JJ Spaun in a 3-hole aggregate playoff on Monday morning, not all that long before the recording of this show. We'll briefly recap the Players Championship. We'll give you a full betting preview of this week's Valspar Championship, including the bets we're making ourselves. And we will make one-and-done picks at the end of the show. You do not want to get into a playoff against an Irishman on St. Patrick's Day. Rory McIlroy takes down JJ Spaun in a 3-hole aggregate playoff in chilly, windy conditions Monday morning at Sawgrass. It was only the second 3-hole aggregate playoff in tournament history. Ricky Fowler won the first one 10 years ago over Sergio Garcia and Kevin Kisner. That one actually went 5 holes because Fowler and Kisner were tied after the first 3 playoff holes. And Fowler had been 5 shots behind with 6 holes to play and made a late charge to get into a playoff. That was a pretty memorable tournament. This time, Rory won pretty handily in the playoff. He birdied the par 5 16th hole to take a 1-shot lead. At the par 3 17th, the famous Island Green, Rory safely found the middle of the green, and then Spaun airmailed his tee shot over the green into the water. He wound up with a triple bogey. Rory had a 3-putt bogey himself, but he still took a 3-shot lead into the final hole. Both players missed the fairway wide right, but Rory was able to make an easy bogey to get his 28th PGA Tour victory. I'm guessing he and his caddy probably celebrated with a pint of Guinness or two after his round. Spaun had led the tournament by 1 stroke going into the final round. Since 2007, 10 players have taken a 1-shot lead into the final day of the Players Championship. None of those 10 players won the tournament. Rory got off to a fast start on Sunday with a birdie and an eagle on his first 2 holes. He was leading late Sunday, but Spaun fought back. Clutch birdie for Spaun on the 16th hole. And then Spaun had a chance to win it with a 30-foot birdie putt on 18. He left his putt in the throat, just 3 inches short of the hole. So a playoff it was, and Rory prevailed. Tom Hoge, Akshay Bhatia, and Lucas Glover finished 2 shots back. Justin Thomas had an interesting tournament. Opened with a 78 on Thursday, but then shot a blistering 62 on Friday to make the cut. But Thomas wasn't able to seriously contend. Had a pair of 73s on the weekend. This was a fun tournament, Bo. We got some pretty serious wind on the weekend that made for difficult scoring conditions. All things considered, I'm surprised the winning score was -12. What did you make of this year's Players' Championship?
Once again, TPC Sawgrass is the ultimate risk-reward golf course, except it was all risk on the weekend with those high winds. There was a lot said about how kind of benign and pedestrian the conditions were the first 2 days, but Saturday really let you know with the teeth of a Pete Dye design. And it started off as we thought that the PM AM was going to be the wave that got the favoritism with the weather. It didn't end up mattering at the end because of the way the cut went and the way that everybody kind of separated themselves based on how well they scrambled in tough conditions. The Irishmen rose to the top again in tougher conditions. But then you saw some of those specialists, those ball striking specialists, rise to the top. JJ Spaun's had a really good run of ball striking this season. He's kind of taken on a new form in his career this season, so I'm interested to see more out of JJ Spaun going forward on golf courses of this nature. Rory McIlroy figured out how to hit a wedge approach, and that's why he won this tournament. Is his Achilles heel in the last couple of years has been his ability to take advantage of good drives. We know that Rory is the best off the tee that there is on the PGA Tour. Distance and accuracy. He hasn't always been able to cash in with those short approach shots, short irons, and at Pebble Beach and now at TPC Sawgrass, he's shown a different dimension to his game that can easily rival Scottie Scheffler on any golf course. This Rory McIlroy guy might be good, guys.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, like, Rory was not always dialed in with his driver in this tournament, but he was
Didn't have to be.
resourceful. Yeah, he found other ways to get it done. And JJ Spaun, yeah, tough that he was not able to seal the deal. He's only had 1 career victory on the PGA Tour in more than 200 starts, but he's had a lot of top 10s, and I would not be surprised if Spaun found his way into contention in the weeks to come. And I think the one win was at the Valero Texas Open, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. So maybe he can be great to see Spaun get back into the winner's circle. Now, we will get into the Valspar Championship in just a moment. But first,
download the free Betting Pros app for iOS and Android. With Sportsbook Sync, automatically track your bets across all major sportsbooks in one spot. Easily monitor your bet performance by sport and bet type, including game picks, props, and parlays. Create custom betting systems to find winning trends and profitable opportunities. Get a free trial of Betting Pros Premium by downloading the app at bettingpros.com/apps and activating your trial on the upgrade screen.
The Valspar Championship is the fourth and final stop on the PGA Tour's Florida swing. It will be played on the Copperhead Course at the Innisbrook Resort in Palm Harbor, Florida. It's a par 71 measuring 7,352 yards. The Florida courses are some of the toughest on tour, and Copperhead is no exception. This course is known for its narrow tree-lined fairways, its numerous doglegs, its chewy rough, and its speedy Bermuda greens. There's water on 9 of the holes, and it can get pretty breezy at Copperhead since it's near the Gulf. The par threes are extremely challenging. There are 5 of them. The shortest among them is 195 yards. The other 4 are all 200 yards or longer. So long iron play is going to be pretty important at Valspar this week. Because the fairways at this course are so narrow, we're going to see players keep the driver in the bag on a lot of these holes. But even with irons or fairway metals in their hands, pros are still going to have a hard time finding fairways. Being a bomber off the tee is not that big an advantage at Copperhead. It is important to score well in the par fives here, but one of them is 605 yards, another is 590 yards. You had better get your birdie on the opening hole, Bo. Copperhead is one of the few courses on tour to start with a par 5, and number 1 at Copperhead is the shortest par 5 on the course, 560 yards. We'll get Bermuda greens once again, so the Bermuda specialists are attractive targets. The weather forecast for the Valspar: temperatures expected to range from the upper 60s to the mid 70s this week. Dry and mostly sunny in the forecast. That could mean a firm, fast course. It's expected to be breezy on Thursday with winds of 10 to 20 miles an hour. On Friday, the winds are expected to blow at 10 to 15 miles an hour. And then it gets calmer on the weekend with winds of 5 to 10 miles an hour. Peter Malnati is the defending champion. Malnati was a surprise winner last year with a score of 12 under par, 2 shots better than Cameron Young. Spoiler alert, I'm not betting Peter Malnati to repeat this week. Taylor Moore won here in 2023 with a score of 10 under, 1 shot better than Adam Schenk. Sam Burns won the Valspar in 2021 and 2022. He was 17 under par in both of his wins. There was no Valspar in 2020 due to COVID. And Paul Casey had back-to-back wins at the Valspar in 2018 and 2019. Bo, your thoughts on Copperhead and what it's going to take to win here?
Another difficult Florida golf course. They've got it figured out. You don't need to have above average distance on any of these courses, really. This is a full bag challenge. It's just something that's interesting about the Copperhead course at Innisbrook. The first hole is the easiest hole in the golf course. So like you said, you got to make your hay on those par 5s, especially number 1. If you're making anything worse than birdie on number 1, you're not going to have a much easier time because it's going to get narrower and narrower and more difficult as the round culminates with the snake pit. You got Moccasin, you got Rattler, you have Copperhead, 16, 17, and 18, the third most difficult non-major finishing stretch on the PGA Tour. And it's because the field since 2003 is hitting the greens on those 3 holes at less than 50% clip, including 36% on the 16th hole Moccasin, which is one of the most difficult holes, period, on the PGA Tour. Innisbrook has got teeth. It's got the cool name. It's got the snake pit. And as far as finishing stretches go, it's not necessarily the risk reward we saw last week, with 16 being the easiest hole on the golf course, 17 being the island green where you can make birdie or triple, and then 18 being brutally difficult. Now it's difficult, and it's just going to be about surviving on Sunday, finishing up with hopefully with a championship. But accuracy is the name of the game at Copperhead, especially off the tee. You have to be able to hit fairways, and good drives gained is a big metric here, as well as approach, especially from 175 onward. this is going to be a course that challenges all of these guys, even though the field is stronger than in years past. We have some pretty big names in attendance at the Valspar. Some of them are trying to just get into the Masters. I'm very interested to see what kind of guys rise to the top here at this tournament.
Yeah, we do have some of the top guys sitting out. Scotty Scheffler is not going to be here, but there are a lot of good players in the field. So let's get to the odds. All odds are courtesy of DraftKings as of Monday morning. Some of the odds may have changed by the time you consume this show. We'll start with some of the favorites. Justin Thomas, Xander Schauffele, and Tommy Fleetwood are the three-way co-favorites at 14-1. Sepp Straka and two-time Valspar champ Sam Burns are 22-1. Will Zalatoris, Corey Connors, and Shane Lowry are 25-1. Tom Kim and Akshay Bhatia are 30-1. Jordan Spieth is 35-1. And Alex Smalley and Michael Kim are 40-1. Are you interested in any of the favorites, Bo?
Absolutely. And honestly, as much as I love Justin Thomas and Xander Schauffele, I think that they're struggling with the parts of their game that are going to be exposed at Copperhead. So I'm not betting on either one of those. For the first time ever, I'm going to bet on Tommy Fleetwood to win a golf tournament. It's
Really?
the first time I've ever done it because he's never won anything ever. I think this is where he gets his first win. So 14-1 for a favorite. That's a great number anyway. And I think that number might actually kind of go longer as we get along in the week. 14-1 today on Monday. But I think as we get closer to lock, you're going to see more money get put on JT and Schauffele and kind of push Tommy kind of into that mid-teens and maybe even to 20-1. That's great for us because I think Tommy Fleetwood has the exact game, the grinder mentality to get it done. This is the kind of course where I expect Tommy Fleetwood to hang in there and to make hay. And then, of course, I cannot ignore the big Austrian Sepp Straka, another golf course where accuracy is a premium. There's not a more accurate player from tee to green in this field than Sepp Straka going the last 24 rounds. And why not look at Michael Kim, one of the hottest golfers in the world? We're getting a nice bump back into normal territory at 40-1, but his missed cut is last week is the reason for that. Missed the cut of the players, but up until then, top 10 streak going back to the waste management. Michael Kim's got the game to play here. I've also looked at Alex Smalley because of the way he's been playing lately. He's all set 40-1. Those guys are all on my card early on. Let's see how much investment I get going forward. But Tommy Fleetwood, Sepp Straka, Michael Kim are where I'm starting.
Yeah, and Kim missed the cut at the Players, but he was even par. It wasn't like he played poorly.
No.
So Tommy
Missed by
Fleetwood,
one.
yep, one shot off the cut. Tommy Fleetwood finished 11th last week at the Players, and had he not kind of stumbled home on Saturday, a few bogeys on the back nine, he could have been right in contention. He finished third at Valspar 2 years ago. Fairway Jesus has the right sort of game for these tight Florida courses, Bo. He just doesn't win very often,
You mean
as you
ever?
said, ever.
Never.
I think he's got a few on the European tour, but
He does, but it's been a while.
it has been a while. So yeah, he's an interesting play. JT, 3 top 10s at Valspar in the last 10 years. He also has 3 top 10s in his last 5 PGA Tour starts. He had that sterling round of 62 Friday at Sawgrass. But as you said, Bo, not necessarily playing well in the phases of the game that are going to matter most at Copperhead. Xander Schauffele has only played 2 events in 2025. His first tournament since the century in early January was the Arnold Palmer Invitational 2 weeks ago. He finished 40th. He's made 2 appearances in his career at the Valspar, 12th in 2022, 5th last year. So he has shown some aptitude for this course. And Straka, you mentioned, Bo, red hot. He's made 9 PGA Tour starts this season. Sepp Straka has 1 win, 3 top 10s, and 7 top 15s, but his best finish in 2 trips to the Valspar was a 46th. He missed the cut last year. I'm mildly interested in Will Zalatoris. Hasn't played this event ever, but with his ball striking, Copperhead seems right up his alley. Corey Connors, another great ball striker. He's finished top 25 in 2 previous Valspar starts. Third 2 weeks ago at the Arnold Palmer. We know it's a good bet that Connors' ball striking is going to be on point. It's just a matter of whether he can make putts. Who else should we talk? Oh, Sam Burns. Bo obviously loves these Bermuda greens at Copperhead. He putted the lights out in his 2 victories here. then finished sixth in 2023 after those two wins. But Burns hasn't finished top 20 this year since the Century, the first tournament of 2025. All right, let's take a look at some of the mid-range plays. We have Luke Clanton, Lucas Glover, JT Poston, Taylor Moore, and Adam Scott all at 45-1. Keith Mitchell, Jake Knapp, Victor Hovland, and Ben An are 50-1. At 55-1, we have Thomas Detry, Cameron Young, Sahith Theegala, and Ben Griffin. Stephen Yeager is 60-1. Rasmus Højgaard is 65-1. And Kurt Kitayama, Jacob Bridgman, and Bud Cauley are 70-1. Do any of the mid-range options capture your fancy, Bo?
Not even one. It's a clean sweep through the board here. All of these guys are either playing terrible golf right now, or they're just way too short for who they are. I think that the value here is actually at the top of the board, honestly. There's a couple long shots that I have my eye on, but this range here, I've got a big red X through it because I don't see any of these guys winning this golf tournament. And that's what it's going to take for me, is if I can envision you winning the golf tournament, then I'm going to make a bet on you if you're in this range. But I don't think any of these guys can win this golf tournament with the way they're playing or at the odds they're at. It just seems like this group is like your running back cliff in fantasy football, where you just kind of run out of top guys, and then whoever's left over is who you end up filling your card with. I think that's a waste of money. A smart bettor handicaps a tournament, and when I handicapped it, none of these guys really rose to the top at all.
That's kind of how I feel about it too, Bo. We've got a bunch of guys who are not necessarily great fits for this course, or guys who just haven't been playing well. One guy I want to ask you about, though, Bo, Jake Knapp. Do we have to reevaluate this guy? I mean, he is at this rate going to be bucking for a spot on the Ryder Cup team. Like Jake Knapp, we thought he was maybe a one-dimensional bomber. He hasn't played this event before. He doesn't seem like he's a great fit for Copperhead, but Knapp has 3 straight top 25s, 2 straight top 15s. Could he possibly contend here?
I think it's possible because of the firepower aspect. He's got the game to have the upside to win. I think part of the credit can go to his discovery of the stinger off the tee. We saw him and Minwoo Lee do really well at TPC Sawgrass with obviously you've got a long enough guy off the tee with driver, doesn't need driver. He can hit a 310-yard 2-iron stinger and find more fairways. Minwoo Lee and especially we're talking about Jake Knapp, finding that off the tee fairway finder that's almost as long as anybody else's driver. That's an advantage, but I don't know that his approach game is strong enough. The windows on this golf course are so narrow, and the greens are very challenging. I think that Jake Knapp has the off the tee game, but his value as somebody who avoids bogeys in relatively to his birdie opportunities, we always love the birdie opportunities Jake Knapp gives himself. But when things get a little hairy, I don't think his short game is good enough to hold up. And I don't know that his approach game is strong enough to avoid some of those big numbers that can lurk around this golf course.
Speaking of Minwoo Lee, not in the field this week, but he had one of my favorite bloopers at Sawgrass this past week. I think it was, I can't remember if it was Saturday or Sunday, but he was just outside a pot bunker, standing in the pot bunker, ball above his feet, tried to hit a little pop-up chip shot and slid the club right under the ball. And
yeah, he whiffed.
Always fun to see that as an amateur golfer who experiences that sort of thing on the regular.
He also had the photo cred for the ace that JJ Jakovac, Colin Morikawa's caddy, made on 17 and on the Wednesday practice round. JJ was a 2-time national champion at Chico State up here in NorCal, so I knew JJ had it in him. But Minwoo Lee took the video where they're all celebrating and jumping around all crazy.
Very cool for a caddy to ace 17 in the practice round. Of the mid-range option, there are 2 guys who I find sort of interesting. Taylor Moore, who won here in 2023 and finished 12th last year. He's been decent, if unspectacular, this year with a couple of top 10s. I guess he gets to what you were talking about, Bo, with guys who maybe have had some course success here, but just haven't been on any sort of roll, don't have any momentum coming into the tournament. And Lucas Glover, who's had a couple of top 15s at Copperhead over the last 6 years and played pretty well last week, finishing tied for 3rd at
He
Sawgrass.
saved me from getting skunked. I got him at 150 to 1, and also in the top 5 and top 10 that ended up cashing. But it was until Sunday when he kind of faltered. It was hoping that a big payout was coming our way with Lucas Glover. He just didn't have enough steam.
Yeah, he was in the hunt for a while. Some other guys in the mid-range. Thomas Detry, talented dude, finished 17th here last year in his Valspar debut. Sahith Theegala finished 7th in his only previous Valspar appearance, but again, not in great form. What about long shots, Bo? Which of the guys with the longer odds appeal to you?
I'm going to take a look at 3 guys in particular. One of them has had success here in the past, and that's Beau Hossler. He's going out at 80 to 1. Beau Hossler is a very accurate player off the tee, very good approach player. His short game and putting especially have let him down in years past. But Beau Hossler seems to kind of show up on these sorts of grinder tracks. So I'll take a shot at him on 80 to 1. Mac Meissner is at 170 to 1. I expect that to shrink. But right now I'm looking at Mac Meissner in the top 15 of my model. Just a really, really solid all-around ball striker, accurate player. And another one in that same vein is currently 150 to 1 that I'm kind of on the fence about, and that's Sam Ryder, sponsored by Ryder. Sam Ryder himself is he's just your all-around guy. He doesn't really have any weak spots. He's not really great at anything either. Pretty much green numbers across the board, but his best attribute is 12th in good drives gained. So good across the board, but nothing is like, oh, wow, look at Sam Ryder. I guess that's baked into his 150 to 1 betting line.
No interest in your guy, Karl Vilips, at 150 to 1?
Shh. I of course bet Karl Vilips every week, and so that goes without saying. If you're not betting Karl Vilips when he's in a professional field, then you're making a mistake, because until I don't understand how he's already still deep like this. We just saw him 2 weeks ago at Puerto Rico. He's sponsored by Sunday Red. He went to Stanford. He's a golf prodigy. He's been like when we saw a little toddler Tiger Woods running around back on the talk shows. This is the Karl Vilips has been doing that since he was 10 years old, and he's literally a golf prodigy. Like, he's the Akshay Bhatia of this generation coming up. And honestly, they're the same age. They came up. Bhatia turned pro at 17 and made his way to being a PGA Tour winner. Vilips went to Stanford, and they end up coming full circle to where now they're both hot shots. Where obviously Bhatia has been on tour for a few years now and has won a couple tournaments. Vilips comes right out of college and wins in his 4th PGA Tour start. 150 to 1 for that guy. That's the long shot you should always bet on. And I would probably bet Vilips even if he was as short as 50 to 1. That's how good he is.
You know more about the specs of his game than I do, Bo. How do you think he fits a course like Copperhead?
Like a glove.
Really?
He's not necessarily a bomber, which was why he was a good pick at Puerto Rico. Is we all wanted bombers to win like Karl Vilips, but I was like, the approach game is Karl Vilips' strong shot, and he's got a really good short game. He's a really good scrambler. He's an excellent putter. I think if he can survive off the tee here, then we're in business. And he's long enough to where we can see that his approach game and short game will really parlay into success. I don't think the golf world is ready for Karl Vilips to be less than 101, which is why we're going to be cashing in pretty much until he wins one of these bigger tournaments.
One of the other guys I'm sort of interested in, he's just outside mid-range, Christiaan Bezuidenhout, the guy's whose name I can never pronounce, 80 to 1, 9th here last year at Valspar. He was 4th in the Phoenix Open earlier this year, 19th at the Arnold Palmer a few weeks ago. Pretty good player to be at 80 to 1. Joel Dahmen is kind of interesting at 120 to 1. Those are also the odds for Joseph Bramlett, 120 to 1. He finished 3rd at the Puerto Rico Open a few weeks ago and was 17th at the Valspar last year. And Bo, another guy, just like 500 to 1 odds, Sami Valimaki. He's made the cut in 4 of his last 5 events. I don't know if he has contention in him, but I might throw $1 on Sami at 500 to 1. And I'm not going to waste $1 on Peter Malnati. The defending champ you can get at 1,000 to 1. That just shows how improbable a victor he was last year in the Valspar Championship. All right, let's get to our early betting cards. Bo, who is on yours as of now?
I have Tommy Fleetwood at 14-1, Sepp Straka at 22, Michael Kim and Alex Smalley each at 40-1, Beau Hossler at 80, Sam Ryder 150, and Mac Meissner 170-1. And of course, Karl Vilips, I'm betting him like he's 50-1 with the investment, but 150-1. I already cashed in with Karl Vilips at 70-1 a couple weeks ago. We're riding high. We're betting the Aussie. It's going to be good. Karl Vilips he's just special.
Yeah, as of the recording of this show, there were no top 5 or top 10 or top 20 odds on DraftKings. It was just outrights. And I'm going to hold back a little bit this week, Bo, just because I'm probably going to have a lot of money in play for the NCAA basketball tournament this week. I've got Xander Schauffele at 14-1. I know... I know he hasn't shown any form and really has not played much this year, but man, getting Xander in not the strongest of fields at 14-1 feels pretty good. I do like Sepp Straka at 22-1, Christiaan Bezuidenhout at 80-1, and our guy Karl Vilips at 150-1. Now for the one and done competition. Bo, you took Justin Thomas last week at the Players Championship. He finished tied for 33rd, good for $136,250. I burned Scotty Scheffler. He finished tied for 20th, good for $240,250 in an elevated event. I don't think either of us really got our money's worth out of the big guns, but my misuse of Scotty Scheffler was especially egregious. It really hurts to play Scotty and not get a top 10 out of him. So our head-to-head battle remains pretty close. I'm just over 1.6 million. You're just over 1.4 million. I'm up first this week, Bo. I'm taking Sam Burns, going with the chalk and the two-time winner. Who are you taking?
I'm going to take big Sepp Straka. It's time to roll out the Austrian, because I think that as we go along, we're going to get fewer and fewer golf courses that favor his style of play. I think this is the last chance I'm going to have to really cash in on his ability.
I would have loved to have taken Sepp Straka this week, Bo. Of course, I burned Sepp at the Genesis Invitational, which was like his one bad tournament of 2025.
Yeah, I remember, because I was kind of worried about that, and then he went out and laid his one egg of the year on my behalf.
7 top 15s and 9 events, Bo, and he missed the cut for me. But yeah,
I still have 0 missed cuts this year. Similar streak to last year, I remember.
That is amazing. You are a singles hitter, while I am swinging for the fences like Dave Kingman here, all or nothing.
Every once in a while, though, I mean, I have quite a few 6-figure things. You're on quite a streak, though. 4 straight 6-figure payouts for you.
Yeah, it's gone 3 straight with at least 240,000. But I have also missed 4 cuts so far this year in 11 events. So that's kind of a dubious distinction. That's all for this week's Betting Pros PGA podcast. We'll be back next week to preview the Houston Open. Until then, so long, everyone.